Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast.
Ozcast.
Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.
Ozcast.
Welcome back to another episode of Just Pulling Around, where we dig into the forgotten gems of pro wrestling. I'm your host, Race Williams, and today we're talking about the most underrated gimmicks ever to grace a squared circle. These were the characters that didn't get enough love, were ahead of their time, or just plain didn't hit like they should have. Whether it's due to bad booking, bad timing, or just bad luck, we're going to break them down. Get ready for a deep dive into the weirdest, creepiest, and most unique wrestling gimmicks that deserved way more. Let's jump in. First up, we've got the proper good ones that got robbed. And the first gimmick off the lot is Waylon Mercy. Waylon Mercy was portrayed by Dan Spivey as a southern preacher with serious serial killer energy. He had the white Hawaiian shirt, the ponytail, the unsettling grin, and he had the Max Cady from Cape Fear meets Deep South horror movie. And how it worked was Spivey had this calm, creepy intensity about him. His promos felt like he was about to snap at any moment. His gimmick was so well executed that he got under your skin. The soft-spoken preacher persona was truly ahead of its time, and laid the groundwork for future characters like Bray Wyatt. The subtlety of his character made him unnerving in a way that many of the larger-than-life, over-the-top gimmicks of the 90s just couldn't replicate. On the flip side, Spivey was plagued with lots of injuries throughout his career, and just as he began getting traction, his body let him down. In 1995, the WWF wasn't quite ready for a character as dark and psychological as Waylon Mercy. The company was in the midst of a cartoonish, larger-than-life character phase, making Mercy's subtle approach to a tough sell. Despite the potential, Mercy wasn't given enough time to develop into a main event contender, and he was underutilized in the bigger storylines. How I'd book him would be, keep him in the shadows. Imagine him in a feud with The Undertaker. Both characters are steeped in that supernatural horror film vibe, but Mercy's subtlety would make a perfect foil to take his more grandiose, mystical persona. Introduce vignettes where Mercy slowly manipulates the lower card guys into his twisted cult, setting up bigger matches and psychological warfare. A gradual build-up towards the Survivor Series 95 casket match with Taker, where Mercy manipulates the mind games, pulling in druids, dark rituals, and the slow burn toward a full supernatural shenanigans. A prototype for so the legacy was it was a prototype for Bray Wyatt, with Mercy's slow burn evil and psychological torment. Bray had openly cited him as an influence. Next up, we've got Mordecai in 2004, portrayed by Kevin Fatigue, who later re-entered WWE as Kevin Thorne. And this gimmick was a religious zealot with a dark gothic twist. He had the bleached blonde hair, the medieval robes, silver cross, and subtling gaze. Pretty much an albino Undertaker. He had the Pirates of the Caribbean meets televangelist horror. What worked was the look. Mordecai had one of the most unique looks of the mid-2000s. WWE, in the mid-90s WWE, His pale face and bright white robes made him stand out. He was a religious extremist, but it had the horror movie vibe to it. He wasn't just about faith, he was about punishment. His vignettes and promos created an atmosphere of doom and gloom that could have worked wonders in WWE's ever-evolving attitude. But the reasons it failed was the timing. In 2004 was the height of the Ruthless Aggression era. And while WWE was transitioning into edgier, more realistic storylines, a supernatural, almost cartoony character like Mordecai didn't quite fit in. He also lacked development. He debuted with fanfare, but after a few weeks his push was cut short, and injuries sidelined him. Then there was The Undertaker. The plan was for Mordecai to feud with Taker, but that angle never came to fruition. It's one of the biggest what could have been stories. How I'd book it would be give Mordecai a longer development period in OVW. Let him fine-tune his in-ring skills before throwing him into the main event roster spotlight. Make him Taker's biggest rival. Set up an entire year-long feud with Taker, leading to a huge WrestleMania match. Focus on a dark, gothic preacher-like gimmick that taps into darker religious undertones, but stay clear of any outright silliness. Think psychological torment that mirrors Taker's supernatural aspects. Now, the legacy of the gimmick is it's a forgotten gem. There was so much potential here, but it just didn't align with WWE's priorities at the time. Would have fit perfectly in today's darker, more storyline-driven environment. Next up, we've got the Hurricane. The Hurricane was Shane Helms' big gimmick in the WWE once he jumped over from WCW, where he played a delusional superhero with a serious case of too much confidence. And he really pulled in the whole Superman thing. By day, he was Gregory Helms, the reporter. By night, he was Hurricane, the superhero. He had the green mask, lightning bolt logo, and a cape. So it was like the Green Lantern. His whole vibe was Zoolander meets Justice League parody. What worked was that Helms was charismatic as hell, and his superhero gimmick worked surprisingly well, especially in the context of the Attitude Era's hyper-creative direction. The "What's up with that" catchphrase took off, becoming a fan favourite. He was a mid-card guy that consistently made his presence known, which is rare in that era. Why it failed was it was a typecast. Hurricane quickly became pigeonholed into the comedy role, which limited his ability to move up the card. WWE didn't capitalise on the character's potential for longer feuds or title runs. He had moments of brilliance, but was always held back by the desire to keep him in the comedy realm. How I'd book the gimmick would be to position Hurricane as Intercontinental Champion during 2003. A serious run, not just a comic relief, but someone who stands up for justice and gets under Hill's skin. Feud him with the likes of Chris Jericho and Christian to elevate him beyond just the jokes. Develop a longer title run to keep the fresh character alive. His legacy is that fans still remember him fondly, and if it were today, he could easily fit into the mid-card with a legit title run. His style is similar to what we see with characters like Kofi Kingston and R-Truth. Next up, we have the deep cut specials. And the first one off the line here is Paul Burchill, the Pirate, in 2006. So Paul Burchill was a British wrestler repackaged as a swashbuckling pirate. His whole shtick was that he was the descendant of a lieutenant in the British pirating world. He had the pirate gear, a sword, and an eye patch. Think Pirates of the Caribbean crossed with a cartoonish villain. What worked was that the entrance was fantastic. Swinging down from a rope like a pirate king was unique. Burchell's chemistry with Katie Lee, his on-screen sister, was great. The character could have easily been turned into a cult classic. What failed was that it didn't last. Once WWE moved past the weirdness, it faded fast. There was no significant storyline and no significant title run. Just a whole lot of nothing. The crowd wasn't invested into the long term, and WWE didn't know what to do with him beyond the comedy. How I'd book it is to keep him in the mid-card as a tag team competitor for a few years. Develop the pirate gimmick into something with dark comedic undertones. Book him into a feud with Regal, who could be the straight man to his chaotic pirate persona. Its legacy is that it was a bit of a cult classic. Totally weird, but one of those only in wrestling ideas that could have gone longer if given some time. Next up, we've got Damien Demento, who was in the main event of the very first Monday Night Raw with The Undertaker. The Damien Demento gimmick was portrayed by Phil Theus as the original creepy, unpredictable, lonely character. He had the leather armour and an unkempt appearance. Picture Mad Max crossed with the post-apocalyptic dystopia. What worked was that his promos were genuinely unsettling, and he created an aura of unpredictability. And he was a true outlaw character that wasn't afraid to get in your face and make you uncomfortable. But what failed was that he had an inconsistent push. Despite being featured in the very first episode of Raw, as I stated in the main event, he didn't get the support he needed. And his booking wasn't cohesive. He would be built up and fade into obscurity. How I'd book him would be develop him as an unpredictable wildcard in WWE storylines. Let him work with a feud that was psychological stakes, like with Jake the Snake Roberts. Use his unsettling demeanour to disrupt the status quo on Raw, building a story that is drawn out over time. His legacy was a missed opportunity. He could have become one of the most influential anti-heroes in WWE history, much like Stone Cold was in his prime. Next up we got Beaver Cleavage, who was portrayed by Chaz from the Headbangers as a Leave It to Beaver inspired character. He was clean cut, had a bow tie and suspenders. And the vibe was very much comedy with a bizarre Freudian twist. What worked was that the weirdness of the character got a lot of attention, and it worked in a comedic, almost absurdist way. Chaz's performance was solid. The awkward dynamic with his mother, played by his real-life partner, made it stand out. Why it failed was it was too edgy and uncomfortable for the time. The audience hated the gimmick, and the storyline's bizarrely uncomfortable edge caused WWE to pull the plug. How I'd book it would be to leverage the absurdity of the gimmick to its advantage, turning the discomfort into comedic gold. Use a more self-aware angle. Make Beaver Cleavage the one to mock the absurdity of the gimmick itself, tapping into 90s meta humour. Its legacy is that it was totally bizarre, but one of those you have to see it to believe it kind of gimmicks. Would have been perfect for the internet age. Next up we've got Ty Dillinger / The Perfect 10. Ty Dillinger, who's back in WWE as Sean Spears, was a self-obsessed, narcissistic character who rated everything a 10. He had the clean-cut black trunks and 10 logo gear everywhere. The vibe was confidence meets narcissism with a dash of comic relief. What worked was the 10 chant was electric. The fans bought in, especially at the Rumble. He was over from the start, making it easy for WWE to push him. What failed was that it was pigeonholed into being a lower mid-card guy. Lack of real feuds. He was stuck into doing the same thing, the perfect den gimmick with no serious build. How I'd book it would be as book him in a RC title run, paired with some serious feuds. The character could easily have feuded with the likes of The Miz or Dolph Ziggler for some much needed depth. Book him into a few backstage storylines where he slowly becomes obsessed with being perfect, to the point of losing control. Ty was a missed opportunity in WWE, but could have thrived in today's indie scene or AEW. And there you have it, a deep dive into some of the most underrated gimmicks in wrestling. Some of them should have had massive runs, others were victims of timing, and others were just pure cult classics that fans love, even if the mainstream didn't. Next time on Just Putting Around, we're diving into the greatest heel turns of all time. From Hogan's NWO switch to Seth Rollins turning on the Shield, you don't want to miss it. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, stay weird and keep putting around.
Are you a podcaster? Maybe you've got that big idea and you're looking for a network to join. The multi-award-winning Ozcast Network can get your content to eyes and ears all over the world. Join now for the first month free, and you could be featuring this sound at the beginning of your podcast. Ozcast. Simply head to ozcastnetwork.com for details.